All right, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to go through what we did in class today because it was a particularly important class in terms of being able to do this question in the Leaving Cert paper, okay? So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to highlight some of the areas here that are important. The first thing we did was looked at what's called, in the class, we actually watched a video first of all. If you go to your classroom, you'll see, just pick up the classroom here. Really important video, it's a very useful video. This one here. So the video that's on the classroom here. Okay, so when I go in and I look at it, you'll see the classroom down here. Introduction, could you please look at that video because it's really important in terms of what we're doing here in class. It explains multiplication and division of complex numbers. It's up since yesterday. Okay, so that's really important. And it will go through what I'm talking about here on the screen here. Yesterday we did multiplication of complex numbers. It's really important because actually when you're doing division of complex numbers, you're also doing its multiplication, essentially what you're doing. We took an example here, so you can look at this question here. If Z1 equals 3 minus 5i, what is Z1 with a line overhead, which you see here, see the line overhead here? That means the conjugate of Z1 and is equal to 3 minus 5i. What's the difference? You change the sign in front of the imaginary bit. So that's all that's happened here. That's changed. You don't change the sign in front of the real bit. This is the imaginary bit, real and imaginary. So this is the real bit, okay, and this is the imaginary bit here. Z2, just another example. Z2, here's Z2 is 4 minus 10i. What's the conjugate of Z2? Well, what's it look like? It looks like Z2 with a line overhead, and the answer is 4 plus 10i. You change the sign in front of the real bit. Same move over here. Z3 is equal to minus 2 plus 6i. Z2 is equal to minus 2 plus 6i. There it is there. What is the conjugate of Z3? The line overhead Z3 is conjugate. It's minus 2 minus 6i. And Z4 is equal to 3i. So just an imaginary bit there. The conjugate of Z4, there should be a line over that head there. The conjugate of Z4 is minus 3i. There's no real bit. It doesn't make a difference. You don't need it because the sign changed in front of the imaginary bit. Excuse me. Let's look at the question then. Z2 over Z1 is a division question. Divide Z2 by Z1. So first of all, you write out what Z2 is equal to. Z2 is equal to, we'll just change this color here. So we'll go to a different color here. We'll just go in red here just for the sake of the question. So we're down here. So Z2 was 4 minus 10i. Z1 was 3 plus 5i. I'm simply just subbing in here. What do I do? How do I answer this question? In division of complex numbers, you multiply above and below by the conjugate of the number on the bottom, which is 3 plus 5i. So the conjugate is 3 minus 5i. 3 minus 5i. So you multiply, so that's what we're doing over here. We're multiplying out 4 by 3 minus 5i and minus 10 by 3 minus 5i. 4 by 3 minus 5i and minus 10 by 3. And on the bottom, we're multiplying a number by its own conjugate. So watch carefully. Where are the mistakes here? The mistakes are people multiply by the conjugate of the number on top. People forget that you change the sign to get the conjugate. Don't. You multiply above and below by the conjugate of the number that was on the bottom, or the denominator as it's called. When you multiply a number on top there, you will get the multiplication, and this is the answer you should get. 4 by 3 is 12. 4 by minus 5i is minus 20i. Minus 10 by 3i is minus 30i. And minus 10 by minus 5i is plus 50i squared, which is 50. Remember, I squared is equal to minus 1. There we get minus 50 here. So 12 minus 50i, where do you get the minus 50i? Minus 20i minus 30i is minus 50i. The 12 was there, and that becomes plus 50i squared becomes 50 by minus 1, which is minus 50. It becomes a real bit. Remember, I squared changes the number from imaginary to real. And we get this number here. We break into two parts, minus 38 over 34 and minus 50i over 34. So we distribute the 34 between this one and this number here. That's how we end up with this. Then we use our calculator. In particular, we use this button here, which is usually at the top left-hand corner. It's the fraction key. You put 38 on top, and you put 34 on the bottom, or minus 38 on top, 34 on the bottom, and it reduces it down to a smaller denominator, a smaller lowest fraction is lowest form. Okay? And therefore we get this answer here. Okay, you get something like this answer. If you get this answer, well and good. We've changed it from an improper fraction to a mixed number. But if you simply end up with 19 over 17 and 15 over 17, 25 over 17, that'll be fine. Okay. So we did the same thing in class. Then we moved on. We did this question here, Z3. Okay, so we did that in class. Then we moved on. We took this question in class. So this question was from the book. Z1 is equal to minus 1 plus 5i. Z2 is equal to 2 plus 3i. Investigate if this equals this. What is this? This is Z1 over Z2. So you find Z1 over Z2, like we were doing above here, same method. And whatever answer you get the conjugate of your answer. So whatever answer you get the conjugate of your answer. And then see if this side is equal to this side. Get the conjugate of Z1 over the conjugate of Z2. So I'm just going to take this bit here. We're going to do it in green. What should this look like? This bit. This should look like minus 1 minus 5i over 2 minus 3i. That's the conjugate of Z1. That's the conjugate of Z2. And what am I going to multiply it by? The conjugate of the number at the bottom, which brings us back, if you like, 2 plus 3i. 2 plus 3i. Yeah, you've gone back again to the original complex number. The conjugate brings you back to the original number, if you like. Okay? Is the same number. 2 minus 3i plus 2, and you multiply the top bits and the bottom bits, and you generally end up getting this answer. I would ask you, if you weren't in class today, make sure you're able to do that. The homework given tonight is straight off 2025. We went straight to the papers now, so we're done papers today and tomorrow and possibly next week. It's the 2025 question. You don't have to find it now because it's here, but you can do the question in exam papers. You have to have them at home, and there it is there. You should be able to do most part of it. I don't see why you shouldn't be able to. Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward question, pretty fair question. I think you should be able to do most part of it, and we'll do it tomorrow in class. Okay, thank you everyone. We'll talk to you in class tomorrow.